Hello to all of you happy stampers and card makers and Stampin' Up! Demonstrators and customers. Welcome to my weekly video and blog for simple stamping with the Step Up card. So I'm Kate with Kate's Paper Creations, and I'm glad you've joined me today. I am making what I consider a simple card, ink, stamps, and paper. And this is the card we're going to make today, and then we'll be stepping it up, so stay tuned. Okay, we're going to start with the standard A2 base, and it is 5.5 by 8.5, and it is scored at 4 1/4. And we will get my bone folder over here and burnish that edge. And that's our base card, and it's going to be a side fold A2 card. The next layer is Pale Papaya cardstock. It is the same size as the front of the card, 5.5 by 8.5. I mean, that's the full size. 5.5 by 4 1/4 is the front of the card. And I'm going to attach it flat with snail. And it's not snail anymore, it's Stampin' Seal. So that's what we're going to do. Get that in here. And we will cover the front of the card. Just like that. Okay. So there's that. The next piece is basic white regular, and it is going to be 4 by 5 1/4, so that it leaves that pale papaya border all the way around, like I showed you originally. And okay, then I made from the stamp set that I'm going to be using here, from Color and Contour stamp set, bundle actually, I'm going to be using one of the scalloped contour dies, and it is this die right here, okay? And I have cut out that die from just regular lightweight copy paper, nice and thin, and I have placed on the back some repositional adhesive. This is from Tombow. I use this a lot when I'm designing. It helps me put things in place without them being permanent, and then I can lift them up, move them around, whatever I decide to do. It also works great for holding things in place when you're making some shadow around it, which is what we're going to be doing here. So let me make sure I got this card cut right. It is 4 by 5. Okay. And I'm going to just center this mask. This becomes what they call a mask on the front of the card. I'm going to center it as best I can. I don't typically measure. That looks good to me. Then I'm going to take the Pale Papaya ink pad and a blending brush, and I am going to add some soft blending just around the edges of that piece. And I'm just going to keep going until I think I've got a little bit. And I'm coming from the inside out to the edge so that I don't end up with a really dark edge. I'd like to keep it kind of light. And so it's just a matter of, and it doesn't, you know, it's not really super visible even. And so you kind of got to watch for that. Just keep going until we get some all the way around. I just want to create kind of a pillow of color, I guess is a good way to describe it. Let's lift this up and just see if it's what we want. I'm just going to gently lift it up, and you can see how it's created that scalloped look around the edge. I think I've got enough color on there for that. So we will put that away. And we're going to leave the mask on there because the next thing we're going to do is use the Evening Evergreen ink pad. And now I am using one of the flower images from Hand Pinned Petals. Now the Hand Pinned Petals bundle, and that is found on page 105 of your catalog. The color and contour set is found on page 98, so you can look those up. And I am using these two stamps right here. Okay, and so I'm stamping the stem portion first with the Evening Evergreen, and just randomly stamping that. Kinda. And when you're stamping it, you are going to want to leave room for the flowers. This is fresh freesia, and I'll kind of show you, because these come on and they are so easy to line up. You will not have any trouble at all lining these up. You can tell exactly where they go. Isn't that lovely? So that's what we're going to do, and we want to be sure when we're stamping these stems that we leave some space for those flowers to be added. And it's okay, of course, to go off the page and to go over the top of your mask. That's what it's there for, is to give you a place where you can do that. I'm thinking and talking at the same time, where you can do that, and it creates a nice frame. And of course, every time you do this, it's going to be different. It's never going to be the same twice. Okay, now let's go back and put some flowers on those. Oops, I almost dropped it. Well, I did drop it, but at least not on the card. That never happens to you, I'm sure. You know, I'm the only one that does that. Not. Okay. We'll keep going here. I tell you what inspired me to make this card is I was getting ready with some kits for upcoming workshop, and I was punching out, or die cutting I should say, a whole bunch of these flower shapes. There's a die in that Hand Pinned Petals set that cuts this flower out. I can show you one of them like this. And I was cutting a whole bunch of them out of, let's see if I can find my scrap here somewhere. Oh, here it is. I was cutting a whole bunch of them out, getting as many as I could out of one single piece of cardstock to make my kits with for the workshop. And as I was looking at it, I go, oh, I could stamp that and make a background. So it just kind of, you know, one of those moments when you go, oh, the light bulb came on, let's try that. And so that's what motivated me to try this. And I actually ended up liking it. Now, the first one I made, I didn't mask off. I just did the whole front, and then I didn't know where I wanted to put my sentiment. So then I came back and thought about it again, and that's when I decided to put this mask on to create this. Isn't that pretty? I really like it. And I hope you do too. And then I just stamped the sentiment in the center, just like this. And this sentiment came from Color and Contour as well. And I stamped it with the Evening Evergreen onto the front. And then we will attach this to the card front, and it's just going to go on flat. You could dimensionalize it to give it just a little bit of lift, but I'm trying to keep this card as simple as possible. So I've decided to leave it flat, and it will leave that lovely pale papaya border all the way around. And there's our Simply Stamping card for today. A simple card made beautifully. I hope you like that. Now, let me show you how we're going to step that card up. So we're going to start with the same base which is your standard white, basic white with the standard sizes. I'm still going to cover the front with the Pale Papaya, full size, so that it covers the entire front. And you know, I know these simple cards are so simple. You don't really need instructions or videos for them, and I understand that. And so that's why I try to make this video worth coming to watch, so that you can see how I've stepped up a simple card. Okay, so there's the card front. We're going to set that aside. I didn't want to attach the front. I just goofed. Okay, so we're going to go back to square one. We're going to get us another piece of that Pale Papaya, and we are still going to cut it at 5.5 by 4 1/4. And there it is, 5.5, 4 1/4. Okay, so we've already got that piece, and we're just going to set that aside. Now we're going to do the art piece, and it's going to be similar to what we did with the other one, except we aren't going to do a mask. We are going to just put it down and color the front with the flower image, similar to what I did originally for the simple card, but then changed it. So let me get that in here, and I am just going to my stamp is getting inky. I must be pressing too hard. And it's kind of fun. You can move this around, and it just looks like cascading flowers. It's kind of fun. Okay, now let's get that fresh freesia in here and put our flowers on. And you can see how quickly I'm doing this. That just shows you just how easily these flowers are lined up with the stem portion of this design. It's just super, super easy. Don't even have to think real hard about it. It just happens. It's so cool. So basically, this is just like creating your own DSP background. Now, you could put some other things in there if you wanted to, maybe some speckles of another color or whatever, but I'm going to stop there with that. And then I am going to take the first part of my step up is I'm going to take the Wink of Stella, and I am going to add Wink of Stella to all of these little petals to give them just a little bit of shimmer. And it doesn't take long, and you don't have to be exacting. It just kind of goes on there nice and fast. It's okay if it's not perfectly on every color, but you know, if you get some in between the petals, it's going to be okay. And so you don't have to be super exacting. Just enjoy it. It's so fun. I love seeing this sparkle get added. And it's hard to see on the camera, I know, but the sparkle really shows up on the card when you're just holding onto the card. Now you want to be careful as you go over the darker green. If you get your Wink of Stella in it too much, it's gonna smear into your Wink of Stella, and you don't want to do that. So you might want to avoid getting too aggressive around the green areas where this flowers overlap the green areas. Just daub it very quickly and lightly. Just a little heads up on that. Oh, one more. Okay, so there's all the flowers. So that was the first part of the stepping up, was to put the Wink of Stella on all of those flowers. Next, I took that die from the Color and Contour, and I cut out another die piece. This is it here. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment in the middle of that with the Evening Evergreen. Just like that. And then I have cut 2 pieces, 5.5 inches long, of the Pale Papaya In Color Open Weave ribbon that's in the catalog. That can be found on page 135. And this little die cut has these little slits that open up at the end here. And so I'm going to weave that ribbon through those little slits so that it goes behind the sentiment and comes out on either end, just like that. It's not very hard to do, just kind of pull up there and get it started. There we go. And then we're just going to center those. And this is why I didn't want to attach my Pale Papaya piece too soon. Okay, this piece I'm going to attach to the Pale Papaya piece, and it is going down flat. You know, I could hide my mistakes. I could edit them out. I've just decided, unless it's really bad and I can't fix it in any way, I'm just going to leave it because I want you to know that none of us are perfect. And I guess we all know that, but sometimes we can get so perfectionistic in our card making that we think the slightest mistake makes it unusable, unmailable, unfixable, and that's just not true. Typically, we can come up with a way to make it work. And I like you to see how we do that. Now, I do have this one where I put this Pale Papaya on the front. I'm obviously not going to throw that away. I'm going to keep it because I will use it for something. You know, it'll make a card in the future, but it just wasn't going to fit what we were doing today. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do with this. That's my next step up, is to put this on here like this. I also wanted to put something else on this to make it look a little bit more special. So in the Color and Contour set is also this little bud-shaped flower with a little stem. And so I got out the markers, Evening Evergreen and Fresh Freesia markers, and I'm going to color it with markers so that the flower stays pink and the leaves stay green, and I'm going to stamp it here on this piece. And of course I'm using the brush end. And just a little tip, whenever you're doing this with markers, coloring your stamp with markers, always start with your lighter color first so that you don't pick up the dark color and smear it into your light color. If you do the darker color second and you get a little bit of the lighter color in it, it hides it, it goes away, it doesn't pick it up. So it makes that a little bit easier. So just a little tip. So I've got that colored. I'm going to stamp it right there like that. And then I'm going to, oh, I already did it. Here it is. Let me get it. I did another one on a separate piece of cardstock scrap, and I colored it and cut it out. Now, next step up. I'm going to take this little clear block, and I'm going to color some color on there, and you won't be able to see it because this is Fresh Freesia, and it's just hardly even visible there, but there's some on there. And then I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to pick up some of that color, and I am going to, with the Wink of Stella with color in it, color in my flower. So it gives it just a very faint bit of color and the sparkle as well. The reason I don't do this onto the ink pad is your Wink of Stella will then contaminate your ink pad, and that's probably not the best way to go. And this way I can just take my Wink of Stella and kind of clean off any color that may have been in the brush, and it's ready to go. And then of course just clean the block and it's all good. Now I'm going to take this one, and I thought about popping it up. I really didn't like it popped up. I liked it just flat. So I am just going to put just a touch of Stamp and Seal in the back of that and kind of overlap it just a little bit and give it just a touch of dimension. Isn't that cute? Ah, well, anyway, I think so. Okay, now this is going to go on to the front of the card. We'll get us another base out here. I keep lots of them cut and handy in my drawer. Matter of fact, I don't know if you do this, but you can take your reams of cardstock down to your printing shop and you can ask them to cut it in half. And then it's already cut in half, and all you have to do is make the score lines in the middle to use them. And so that gives me a drawer full ready to go. Okay, now I am going to attach this, and I thought about popping this up, but with the ribbon, it really didn't seem to work that well. So flat is what it's going to get. And this will move around if quite a bit if you don't fasten it down. So I'm going to give it just a touch of Stampin' Seal right there in the middle, just a small patch of it. Then I am going to put it where I want it on the card, just like that, and I press it in place. Now I can turn this over and it will stay in place, and I'm just going to attach this as was originally shown, flat onto the front of my base card. But when I do that, I put the adhesive all the way around. Now I can wrap that ribbon around to the back so that the ends will be hidden in the sandwich on the front of the card. And then I come back and put just a little bit more on each of those pieces of ribbon, just a little bit more adhesive so that they'll stick down really well. And then we'll put this onto the front of the card like that. And I am in love with Bumblebee Trinkets. I am just totally, I have almost used up an entire package already, as you probably know if you watch my videos. And I just love them. They are just so absolutely adorable. They're not really any thicker than a standard dimensional, so that they won't cause a lot of bulk on your card if you're mailing them. And they attach perfectly with just a single mini glue dot right in their middle. And you can put him on anywhere. I'm going to put him on my sentiment piece. And there is today's stepped up simple card. So we have the simple card, which is really quite beautiful. And I love this softness around the sentiment area. Using it as a mask turned out really cute. And then I do like the stepped up version as well. And I hope you can see some of that shimmer. It's just so fun. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm glad you joined me. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to have you shop with me. My online store link is in the description below, as well as a link to my blog, katespapercreations.org, where you can find out more about what colors were used and other specials that I have for my customers, and how to use the host code, and all kinds of things are on my blog. So I invite you to check that out as well. Thanks again for stopping by.